We are all connected through shared experiences, and while our circumstances may vary, there is almost always a common thread in our stories. I am Amy Seaman, and these are the stories that connect us.
Oh, hi, friends. Welcome to another episode of A Common Thread podcast. I'm your host, Amy Seaman, and today I have with me Alicia Barledge. Alicia is the Safe Harbor Division Director at a local organization called The Link.
Yes.
Alicia, why don't you, in your words, tell us what The Link is and the community that you serve?
Yeah. So The Link is an adult and youth-led nonprofit where we serve youth who have been impacted by juvenile justice, sex trafficking, and homelessness. We do that through a variety of ways and different programming like emergency shelters, case management services specific to each youth situation. And then something really cool that stands out about The Link, it being youth-led, is we have a huge youth council of former youth who've gone through our programs. Each division has its own council, and then they come together as one council where they're actually helping us, inform policies and procedures within our programs, any updates to programs that we may need, and just giving like youth input, which is really unique because a lot of times youth get left out of those spaces when their voices are actually really important to those spaces.
Yes. I love it. So I was introduced to this organization last year. There was a luncheon, Rise for Change, that I was invited to. So Apple Autos, as you guys know, if you've been listening to the pod, they are a sponsor. I'm also super fortunate to be one of their brand ambassadors. So I have the opportunity to attend different community events that they're involved in.
Yeah.
And so when I went to this luncheon, I felt like I walked away having learned so much that really challenged kind of maybe some stereotypes or things that I had thought I knew in the past. And also I was just really impressed with the courage of the youth that got on stage and told their stories and then how they're helping others. It was very, very moving. So I really wanted to have you on because I want to bring more awareness to this organization. I think it's super impactful, the work that you're doing.
Yeah.
And I think especially now it feels like everybody is looking for ways to help and to get involved. So this is a great organization. I also think specifically when it comes around the topic of sex trafficking, I think that with the high profile cases like P. Diddy and the Epstein list, that this is an important topic. And I think there are a lot of myths that we need to bust around what that is.
For sure.
So let's start there. Can you define for me, let's define sex trafficking? Because my vision prior to going to the luncheon, I just always had this image of young girls from other countries being loaded up in the back of a U-Haul and driven, to a brothel.
Yeah.
But that's not always the case.
That is not always the case.
Okay.
Yeah. I would say it flies a lot more under the radar than what we've been taught. I think like when I was in high school, the movie Taken came out.
Yes.
So we have this perception that Liam Neeson is on the hunt for all these folks who are being kidnapped internationally.
Yeah.
Sex trafficking and exploitation could be something like youth engaging in survival sex. So their basic needs aren't being met, but they find someone who's like, yeah, you can stay at my house or I'll buy this for you if you perform this sexual act for me.
Mm-hmm.
Trafficking, the difference is exploitation, or trafficking falls within exploitation, but trafficking usually involves a third party outside of a trafficker and a victim.
Okay.
So there's someone, or the buyer, the purchaser, and the victim. Like there's a third party person that's organizing that. Exploitation, like I said, could be like survival sex, just for a place to stay, something to eat, maybe a higher position on a sports team, because it is happening in our schools.
Being a mom of two young kids, that's terrifying.
It is terrifying. So the Minnesota student survey that comes out every couple of years, that's a huge way of how we inform our knowledge of sex trafficking. And one of the questions that's on there is, have you ever engaged in survival sex? And the way that they define it for the youth is trading something of value or trading sex for something of value to meet those basic needs. And you would be shocked by how many students are saying yes and in what areas they're saying yes to. Because I think a common myth that we have is this only happens in urban parts of Minneapolis and St. Paul. It's actually happening in rural Minnesota. So I grew up in Alexandria. It's happening there. It's happening up in Duluth. It's happening all over. And that's a huge misconception people don't realize.
Yeah. Are they, when they're completing these surveys, is it anonymous?
It is anonymous. And the surveys look a little different based off their age. So typically they hand them out in 5th grade and then in high school. Fifth graders aren't asked that question just because there's been a lot of pushback on that. but they're specifically looking at data for 11th graders.
Okay.
The hard part is those we know youth are not really engaged at school. They may have missed school that day. So the data that we do have, there could be a lot of margin of error within that, just because youth have to be present in order to take the survey. And some youth don't really understand also what may be happening to them.
Yeah.
So they may say like, no, I'm not doing that for this, but that actually is a situation.
What's happening. So what's the follow-up then from that? So you got this information back.
Yep.
Are you able to figure out who is and reach out to them, or what are the action steps that you take from there? Or is it just simply a research data point?
It's simply like a research data point that informs like our law and what we're pushing for as far as services and funding. Because it is anonymous, one thing when you're working with survivors, you don't really want to put their business out there like that.
Yes.
And keep it anonymous. The goal is though that they're finding safe relationships and community at school where they would maybe feel comfortable disclosing that.
Yeah.
I would say where we're seeing maybe some of those youth come in is in our shelter services or being referred to our supportive services team within Safe Harbor. So those are youth who have been confirmed sexually exploited or trafficked. A lot of times they're unhoused. There's a huge intersection between being unhoused and being trafficked or exploited. So when they're being referred into services, we're able to offer them specialized services like shelter, culturally specific case management, things like that, to hopefully, meet that need of finding housing, but also start working through that trauma of being exploited and trafficked.
Yeah. When they come in, are they aware when they come in? Like, do they recognize what has happened to them, or they just recognize they need help, and then through talking with counselors and therapists, then being like, oh, wait, that did happen to me?
Yeah, I think it's a combination of both. So youth are very perceptive and smart.
Yeah.
I think there's some youth that there's just been so much trauma that it's hard for them to identify. Like maybe that's all they've known. So it's hard to be like, wait, this isn't right and this shouldn't be happening. A lot of the youth that we see, they know what's going on. It just they may not have the language to put to it that is exactly what has happened. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And they're also, their brains aren't developed. And so we're still working at developmentally appropriate scaffolding for explaining that to them.
Yeah.
When they meet with our case managers, we're able to do a curriculum that we get through Love 146 that is called Not a Number. And so it works in modules. So for like a couple of weeks, they'll focus on one aspect of identifying like safe and healthy relationships. And then it kind of expands to looking at maybe their experiences of sexual exploitation and trafficking.
Okay.
And so we see a lot of like kind of a light bulb go on in those moments as they're building those trusting relationships.
Yeah. Yeah. In what percentage would you say of the cases where they're being exploited is somebody that they knew and trusted? That's like a close,
I would say,
relationship.
The overwhelming majority. I mean,
Really?
Don't have a percentage to put to it. Yeah, I think that's a huge myth, is that it's always someone exploiting them is always someone they don't know.
Yeah.
We're seeing that it typically is someone that they knew or know well.
And then they start grooming them, right?
Yes.
Grooming is a big part of this.
Yes.
What are some, like if somebody's listening, what are some kind of red flags or things to really look for that is in that grooming process before it becomes physical?
Yeah, I would say probably like age inappropriate relationships is a very common one. So maybe they're hanging out with people who are way older than they are, like grown. A huge one that we also look for is, if they come back with items that they can't account for. So if you just popped up at the shelter with the brand new iPhone 17 that just came out, but we know they don't have the money to afford that. Huge red flag. Maybe their nails and their eyebrows got done. If they're female identifying, maybe they pop up with new clothes, new sneakers that they did not have before. Those are really huge red flags that we look for.
Okay. So as a mom, if my son were to come home with a gift from a teacher or a coach or something, right? That's kind of like in some cases, like let's just keep an eye on this.
Yeah, I would say we call that a beige flag in like millennial talk.
Yeah.
I think it's like, I feel like a coach or a teacher should reach out to you and let you know like, hey, I gifted your child with this. So that would definitely be something that I would be like, wait, why did they give that to you? And just ask questions.
Yeah. Because it's, it's this, we don't want to live in this place of fear where there's distrust everywhere, because there are so many more incredible teachers and coaches that are truly trying to help students than there are those that are causing damage or have ill intentions.
For sure.
So goal is not to instill fear, but it is to just kind of be aware
Yeah,
of
absolutely.
conversations that they're having.
Yes. I think too, noting like personality changes. So if you know that you have a child or a youth that you're working with that normally is very outgoing, and all of a sudden you see them being like really withdrawn and kind of jumpy, that's also behavior wise things that we look for too.
Okay.
Maybe they don't feel comfortable around certain genders of people, and you see an increase of them, you know, trying to be avoidant with that. And maybe you haven't seen that in the past. That's also a red flag that we look for too.
Okay. Super helpful. So then going back to trafficking then. So define that. So that's where there's somebody else involved.
Yeah.
Where they're paying.
Yes. There's like a third party that's setting up. A lot of people call them dates. And that's when like they're setting that up where you're going to actually go perform the sexual act with this person. And then I think another misconception is that every pimp is super, super violent. Mm-hmm. There are those that are. Some of them are a little bit more discreet. And usually there's someone that kind of manages the situation, like another woman or another man involved in the situation that's kind of keeping people compliant.
Yeah.
And the use of substances and things like that.
Mm-hmm. So this is like the whole Epstein situation.
Yeah, I would say like that's a pretty prime example.
Yep. Wild. And it's wild because, again, you think of these high profile cases, you think of it being in Hollywood, you think of things that you see in movies like Taken. This is happening in our backyards.
Yes.
In suburban
areas and very rural areas that you think it's like a podunk little town. It's happening there. It's happening everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's really scary. So what brought you to the link? How did you get involved in the organization?
Yeah. So I just started my role in May officially at the link. I've worked in other safe harbor programs prior to that. I kind of got my start in this work in 2020. Coming off the murder of George Floyd, I was looking for a new job position. I applied for a case management job with another organization. And I met one of their directors over there, and he was like, actually, I think your skill set would be better at this other program that was working with only female identifying youth who were victims of exploitation and trafficking. I started as the program coordinator, and I was really supposed to just be like doing numbers and data and helping them report out to their funders. And then I kind of would sneak up and, you know, start building connections with the youth because I just love working with youth. Yeah. That's my passion. And as time grew, I got promoted into then being the program administrator. I started overseeing outreach, and then I did training for the organization. And in about January, I had a coworker that was on a call where our CEO, Beth Holger, had mentioned they were hiring for this position. And he called me immediately and was like, you have to apply for this. Mm-hmm. And so I shot my shot and I got it, which is super exciting.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. I feel like this is really my dream job. Yeah. I'm only 29 years old, so that's kind of scary to say that. So I'm just really excited to see what comes through this and next, and how we're growing and expanding and reaching more youth who need our services. Mm-hmm. It's just been awesome.
I love that intersection of when you find something that you're like, this really like feels like soul work.
Yes.
You know, like it's aligned with your soul.
Yes.
And then you're given the opportunity. And I always say this, but I'm like, when you're on your truest path and you're doing the work that is aligned with your soul, doors open for you.
Absolutely.
And so you're like, it's kind of, when I hear you say it's kind of scary that I'm 29 and have my dream job, you don't even know what else is beyond this.
Right.
And it's amazing to have different seasons of life where you're like, I feel so aligned. I feel so fulfilled. And then something can come up that you're like, that wasn't even on my vision board.
No,
and
literally.
it's amazing. So.
Yeah. Even an experience like this, being invited to come and talk about the work, like I would have never pictured that.
Yeah.
Ever. Especially when I was like 23, 24, like I don't know what I want to do, and a pandemic just hit. So we're in the house. So
same. Yeah. I never thought I would have a podcast either.
Yeah.
You know, it felt, people used to tell me all the time when podcasting first started, like, you should have a podcast. You're such a good storyteller. And I felt like I wasn't enough to carry it on my own. You know, I'm like, oh, no one's going to listen. I would need somebody to do it with me. And I realized through some trial and error that the universe was pushing me to do it and telling me I am enough
for sure
and do this. And so I'm loving the conversations I'm having. I'm loving, you know, some are heavier, some are light and funny, but I think that there are so many stories. There are more stories that need to be told than there are opportunities to tell them. So
I agree with that.
I'm so glad you're here.
Thank you.
Okay, so the sex trafficking is just one part of what you do.
Yeah.
Right. So then let's talk about the homelessness.
Yep. So I am in the Safe Harbor division. So I oversee like the sex trafficking and exploitation. We have 2 other division directors, and in their division, there's multiple programs for youth who have been unhoused, whether they're young families. Something really unique to the link is we actually have culturally specific housing for LGBTQ identifying youth, which is like the first of its kind.
Yes.
Which is incredible.
Snaps.
And much needed.
Yes.
Yes. So there's a lot of work happening there. A lot of work happening in North Minneapolis, some housing programs over there for youth who've been impacted by like community violence, things like that. So that's kind of covers housing in those services. They're also getting similar things that we're getting in our division. So we partner with a local therapy group that comes in and does therapy with them. We have a drug and alcohol counselor that comes and meets with youth who are on that journey of figuring out what chemical dependency has looked like in their life, and the intersections of how they got there. And then our other division focuses on youth advocacy, specifically within the juvenile justice system, or you'll hear a couple people at the link call it the juvenile injustice system, just because of how youth have been so impacted. So we have a program called School Matters that's working with youth who've like been very truant from school for various reasons. Other advocacy programs that are specific to like young Black males or young Black females, and then women of all races as well. So, yeah.
I have been driving my Lincoln Aviator for almost a year now, and I can still confidently say it is the best vehicle I've ever owned. In the middle of a Minnesota winter, the heated steering wheel, heated seats in the front and back, and the Lincoln Way app that lets me start my car from anywhere, these are absolute game changers. But what really sold me on Apple Autos wasn't just the car, it was the experience. This was the first big purchase I made on my own, and not once did I feel pressured or talked down to. There was no upselling, no gimmicks, just a team that genuinely cares about helping you find the right vehicle for your life and budget. If you're looking for a new car, visit one of Apple Auto's 8 locations and experience a different way of buying. If you get home and you change your mind, they offer a 7-day money-back guarantee, no questions asked. Go see them today and tell them a common thread sent you. You won't regret it. Ali Mann, founder of Moonlight Cannabis, let me reintroduce you to one of my favorite products on the market. Moonlight is functional cannabis, gummies and drinks designed for real effects like stress relief, energy, relaxation, giggles, or even better sleep. Their products do more than just get you high. So take their signature Half Moon gummy, for example. It's 5 milligrams of THC paired with 10 milligrams of CBD. That balance takes away the anxiety or paranoia and leaves you just feeling happy and relaxed instead. As a mom, I love having options that work for different moments. If I just need to take the edge off without anyone noticing, I'll grab a crescent moon. When I want a little boost and a happy vibe, the half moon is perfect. And if it's a night out with the gals, that's when I reach for a full moon. And for sleep, there's Goodnight Moon, which is a blend of THC, CBD, and CBN that helps me fall asleep faster, stay asleep longer, and actually wake up refreshed. No groggy hangovers. Moonlight was created by a woman for women. It's about balance, joy, and finding the right vibe every time. Go to moonlightmn.com and use code AMY15 for 15% off your first order and experience the magic of Moonlight for yourself. I can snap a mirror selfie of my outfit of the day with full confidence. But the second you point a camera at me, I totally panic. Suddenly I'm questioning everything. Like, where do my hands go? What kind of face am I supposed to make? Am I attempting to look serious and sexy? Or am I laughing off to the side at something hysterical that's not even there? It just feels uncomfortable. But Professionally has completely changed the game for me when it comes to professional photos. Their photographers instantly make you feel comfortable, guiding you through poses so you never feel awkward. Plus, their playlists always set the perfect vibe the moment you walk in the door. You will be dancing your way through that photo shoot in no time. And if a little liquid confidence helps, Prosecco is served as part of the package. I'm just saying. You might know them on Instagram for their signature pink backdrop, but if bold colors aren't your thing, do not worry. They've got neutral options too. Professionally was designed to make professional photos painless and accessible with quick turnaround times and sessions as short as 15 minutes. So if it's been 5 years or more since your last headshot, consider this your sign. Book now at profeshy.com. That's profeshie.com. And don't forget to mention a common thread.
Is the link part of is this a chapter of a larger organization nationally, or is this
No, it's
one of one?
One of one. There are other organizations that do similar work to us.
Yeah.
What's really unique about our start is we were founded by 2 Minnesota Vikings players,
Okay.
Oscar Reed and Jim Marshall. Jim Marshall recently just passed away, so that was a huge loss for our community. Originally, they had started out programming in mind for like youth impacted by community violence and juvenile justice in North Minneapolis. And it's grown, I think, far beyond than what they could have like imagined of all these different divisions, which is super exciting. And we're not done growing yet, which is incredible.
Yeah. Is there one area, one division that is like has the highest amount of growth right now that you're seeing?
I would say they're all pretty growing at the same rate.
Okay.
Safe Harbor is a little unique just because Minnesota is one of the only states in the nation that has Safe Harbor laws. So I would say we maybe get a little bit more funding than other folks.
What does that mean? What are those? What's the Safe Harbor law?
Yeah, so Safe Harbor laws were put into place in 2014 to help assist youth who had been survivors of sex trafficking. What we were seeing happening before 2014 and before these laws were put in place is that youth were actually sitting in jail and being convicted for prostitution and then turned back out onto the street to their traffickers. So their traffickers and the buyers were not sitting in jail. It was the youth, the victims themselves.
My mouth is wide open.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and that's terrifying.
Terrifying.
And it speaks to some of maybe the larger things that we're seeing nationally with some of these high profile cases.
Yeah.
So a lot of people who had been on the ground doing youth work really got together and were like, we need to change this.
Yeah.
Through a Bush Fellowship founded or that our CEO received, she was able to kind of build this framework of Safe Harbor and No Wrong Door, which just means that there's going to be specific housing and services for youth who are currently survivors of sex trafficking in a way that was just so different than what they had seen it before. What that has led to now is the state is split into, I think, 8 regions. Each region has what we call a regional navigator. So this is someone who is like in systems level work that can talk with law enforcement, hospitals, schools, social workers, and kind of do some high level like training and building awareness. And then also they have a crisis line that they all run 24/7. And it's staffed. How we do it is we have a supportive services team within Safe Harbor. They all take turns staffing that. So we're getting calls all the time for youth who need placements, youth who just maybe need an Uber to a safe place. Maybe they need something to eat, things like that, specifically who have been exploited and trafficked. And then we're also able to do case management services. We're helping them, find housing, get enrolled back in school, career, things like that.
Oh my gosh. Oh my, so you said Minnesota is the only one that has the...
We're one of the only ones.
One of the only ones that
kind
has
of
that.
leading the charge in that work. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Which is awesome. What's really great about these is also it allows youth up until they're 24, turning 25 to receive services.
Okay.
Which is huge. That before it used to be 18.
Yep.
They got it up a couple years ago. But we're still seeing a need far beyond 24. Like the trauma of trafficking lasts lifelong.
Yeah.
So I think the next push in the anti-trafficking movement is trying to get that up for Safe Harbor for all.
So that they have access to these free resources.
Yes.
You're saying.
Right?
Yeah.
Because it's still a need even if you turn 25 and.
Yeah. No, I imagine it never leaves you.
Yeah.
And at any point something can re-trigger it.
Absolutely.
I think of back to like the Me Too movement.
Yeah.
And some people that were coming out and had been, a decade or whatever.
Yeah.
People are like, why now? It's like, well, it's never left them, but maybe there's circumstances that have changed where they suddenly feel safe to say something or whatever that might be. But yeah. If you don't, unhealed trauma can show up in some really dangerous ways.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I love that that's what you guys are pushing for.
Yeah.
The homelessness, what's our youth homelessness rate right now in Minnesota? Do you have
I don't have a number off the top of my head, but in 2018, it was pretty high. It was like 36% of folks who were unhoused were youth at the time. And again, that's just being caught by folks who were able to take a survey and be able to be represented within that. Yeah. I would say it's gotten astronomically worse since COVID happened. And then we're seeing a spike in mental health needs, like very high. And there's just not enough hospital beds for you to be able to go access those services. So our ERs are becoming like mental health placements, which is not ideal long term for anybody.
Right. Yeah. Right. So if they're like, when you say that, if they're at risk of harming themselves or others, they go to the ER.
Yeah.
That's the process right
yeah.
now.
Currently right now. I mean, as much as possible, we try to be proactive within programming. So connecting them to therapy services. The thing is, though, is we can't force youth to be medicated. We can't force them to engage in those services. We can do our best to encourage them. And so, yeah, we've just seen a huge influx of that within our programming.
Yeah, that really is tricky. I go to therapy, I believe in therapy, and, you know, I have 2 young boys, and so they're big feelers, both of them are, which I love. I think that's such a beautiful gift.
Yeah.
But I'm like, we need to have an outlet for this. And so I'm trying to normalize seeing a therapist at a young age so that you have the tools. And then as you get older and you need to go back, you're like, I've already done this, you know?
Absolutely.
But it is hard because they are of the age where you can't force them. My now 12-year-old last year, he had a tough year. And I was like, we're going. And I made the appointment and he went to stick to me the whole way in the car. I barely get out of the car. Finally did.
Yeah.
And he sat there and he wouldn't talk. And the doctor was like, I don't know what you want me to do here.
Right.
Like, he's saying he's fine. You're saying he's not.
Yeah.
So we just kind of like, there's nothing we can do. Yeah. And I felt so defeating because, and then he was angry at me for several days after that. It's so defeating because as a parent, you're like, I know that this can help. And sometimes I think that hearing it from somebody else is better than hearing it from me. Also, I'm not a licensed therapist.
Right.
I do a lot of counseling in my styling job. You know, unpacking things with people. I ask the questions. I'm an empath, but I'm not a therapist. And so sometimes I'm like, we just need help. And so it is really hard. It is hard.
Yeah.
And it's needed because we are in a real mental health crisis.
We really are. Yeah. I would say too, like when we get youth that come into our programs, like they don't want to go to therapy. What's really nice about our therapist is we have one that does art therapy. So it could be like they sit down and paint a picture and she's asking questions in a way that doesn't feel like traditional, I'm going to lay on this couch and cry for 5 hours kind of therapy. Our drug and alcohol counselor is really great too, where like he'll get on a bike and go bike around the neighborhood with youth. And then, you know, they're more inclined to open up when they're doing something that feels like a little less like I need my guard up. So that's been really great to see. And I also understand too, because when I was in high school and I went to therapy for the first time, I had the same exact experience that your son did. I sat and looked at that lady and my mom was like, you're not going to say anything. And I was like, I don't need to be here. And I really did. And then obviously we built a rapport and I was able to open up. And now I am very pro therapy. I think everybody should have a therapist. Please. And go back when you need it. I think that's huge. We need
that. And that's what I was saying. I'm like, you don't have to be in this forever. You know, I go in and out of seasons of life.
For sure.
So when I was like, okay, clearly we're not going anywhere here. I then went back to therapy and was like, okay, now help me, give me the tools to then, you know, work through it with him. And also just a temperature check of like, am I doing this right? Am I causing more harm? You know, you don't know. But it is so needed. What's nice is at our elementary school, and I think this is becoming fairly common, they're bringing in outside therapists as well. So I was just able this year, I'm finally able to get my youngest, who is already being bullied, on the list to talk through that. And I'm like, it feels less, you know, he's in so many extracurriculars. I'm like, there's no time to go to therapy outside of that. But I'm like, if it's in school, it feels less, maybe a little less serious for him. You know?
And their spaces can be fun and like have all the fidgets and all the things. And it's probably a nice little break in the day.
So we'll see how that goes. We're just getting started, but I love that option. However, it goes back to like the insurance aspect of it too. Like I had to make several calls to make sure it was in. There was one doctor that was out, which would have been like $245 out of pocket. And the other one was in, which is like $45 out of pocket. And so it's like, okay, we're fortunate that we can afford that. But I think of the kids who really need it.
Absolutely.
Their parents can't afford it.
So we're lucky in the state of Minnesota where we are able to receive grants to cover those therapy services. That's how we're able to pay those providers. I think it gets trickier the more that they transition out of programming. And then it does become a question of insurance. And when there's serious cuts being made to like public insurance, that also makes it a barrier for them to access. And so, yeah, mental health has always kind of seemed more of like a privilege than an inherent right that I think we all need to have.
Yep.
And so that's also been a really huge challenge for a lot of youth and their families, because we do a lot of family facing work as well.
Okay. Yeah. So a lot of this, I mean, I'm sure that the mental health plays into all of these categories, right?
Yes.
They're catching the kids who are really vulnerable
Yes.
and aren't in a good headspace.
Absolutely.
And they're manipulating them and
Yes.
grooming them.
Yep.
And then sometimes, you know, when don't have a home, obviously I imagine that does some wild things to your mental health.
Yes.
You know, you're getting in trouble and you're in the juveniles. There's usually a reason for that, right? So that is the common thread through all of this.
Absolutely. For sure.
What are some ways that like how do you guys, aside from federal grants, like how do you guys stay running? Like what are some things that the community can do to give back or contribute?
Yeah, absolutely. So like I said, we're pretty grant heavy, federally, state, and we partner with a couple Rotary clubs that are really awesome, that give us a donation. So they don't, Prior Lake Rotary donated like $20,000 to our Passageways shelter for renovation. So we were able to update some apartment units that we have on site, which is really great. A lot of private donors, a lot of foundation dollars too, which, you know, I think everybody is taking a hit in the current climate. So we're seeing adjustments in those, and that can be challenging. And then I think some practical ways that people in community can get involved is maybe attending a Link event. So we do a gala, we do our Rise for Change breakfasts, and a couple other events. Those are really great ways to get connected, hear about the work, and also an opportunity when an ask is made to actually meet it practically. Even to like people who want to donate their time. We love when people want to come and do volunteer projects and help us clear stuff out. Because we get a lot of donations that sometimes just aren't like, people just are like, yeah, my grandpa died and here's 5 of his old man sweaters, which is great at times.
You get like a Goodwill drop off.
Yes.
Because it makes them feel better about it.
Yeah. So we always have like a running ask list on our website. A lot of times our biggest needs are like culturally specific hair care products. You know, different types of clothing that we can keep when youth actually show up to the shelter with nothing. Things that they would actually feel comfortable and dignified in wearing is a huge thing. And
I'm so glad you said that, because I do a closet clean out garage sale every year. And I have a basement closet full of clothes that didn't sell this last time. And I was just down there going, I don't know if I'm going to do another one. I feel like I just need to donate it. And these are clothes that I would sell. So I love that, because that is now where I will take it.
Yes, we would love that. Especially like our youth they're teenagers. They want, you know, school just started, and some of them are like, I have nothing to wear. Like, I want to look good.
And that I totally, having a middle schooler right now, understand, like, they want to have the right shoes. When laundry is not done, it's like, what am I going to do? I need that specific shirt. You know, I get it. We
have a couple organizations too that make like care kits for us too, or run bags. We're not a facility, or none of our programs are restrictive and holds. If youth need to leave, want to leave at some point, like it just becomes too much, sometimes they make the decision to leave, and like we don't force them to stay. We do our best to safety plan and always let them know like you're always welcome back if you need anything. Those bags are really helpful because it contains hygiene, maybe some like safe use kits, or just resources that they need to be safe as they're navigating out without, you know, staff around them or people to support them. So those are really huge ways that the community can join. Also, anytime if there's like a group that wants to participate in a training and maybe learn more about how to spot youth who are homeless or being exploited, we have a really great regional navigator that does those trainings in the community. And she's also training law enforcement on how to be more trauma informed, our hospitals, our school social workers, things like that.
Wow, amazing. I'm so impressed with just all the different aspects of what the link does that you don't think about until you're saying it. I'm like, oh, that feels obvious now. You know? Tell me a story or two of a youth that has come through your program that has just like really touched you in some way. So that's a daily thing. But.
It is a daily thing. I have one that stands out to me, and unfortunately we lost her over the summer, which was really heartbreaking and tragic. But this is a youth that I met when I worked at another agency, and then had the opportunity to reconnect with and be back with over at the link. She came to us out of a really tough family situation and some exploitation and trafficking that had been identified. And really, like, I remember coming on into the program when she was there and her just mean mugging me the whole time. And I would try to talk to her and she'd be like, B word, don't talk to me. Like, and it was like, oh, okay, it's 8 a.m. and I'm already being called my name.
Yeah.
Like, got it. And then over the next couple of weeks, you could just see like her realizing like she was finally safe. And so she started opening up and wanting to engage, building connections. And her path was never very like linear.
Yeah.
There was always, you know, she would do really well, something would happen, a new trauma would occur, and then we're having to navigate that. We got her into housing at the link, which was a huge win. She had went over there, stayed in shelter, discharged because she did set off a fire extinguisher, which was not ideal.
Yeah.
A lot of people still laugh about that one today, which is good. They can laugh about it now.
Yeah.
But when she got back in that housing, that was like a huge step in her healing journey. You know, she stayed connected with folks. She ended up co-chairing one of our committees, the Survivor Advisory Committee. And she was just a huge part of the anti-trafficking movement in general. And it was really great. I think I got to see her in a new way when I came over to the link because she was such a leader. In the past, she didn't have opportunities at the other agency to lead like that.
Yeah.
But like it was really cool to get the opportunity to see her like lead a meeting or step up. I did a training for the agency on trafficking for some new hires, and she was there to like give perspective and share from a youth perspective of like, I would have never wanted that for myself. That was something that happened to me. I didn't ask for that. So that was like probably one of, I don't say I have favorites, but that was, I think that's that. There will never be another one like her.
Yeah. And she was given an opportunity to tap into a part of her that she probably didn't know that she had the strength to do. To be a leader. I think use her voice in a way.
Absolutely. And I think to meet a youth who's like on the cusp of turning 16, for them to look you in the face and be like, I don't think any of this matters because I don't think I'm going to make it to 18. That's really heartbreaking. So I think a lot of the work was continuing to just show up for her and let her know like that is possible. You're going to graduate high school. She did. You know, all these things. And then, you know, it was really heartbreaking to lose her. I think that rocked our entire organization to its core, and it's been hard. But even as we're doing renovation projects, she had a huge part in picking out the paint colors of flooring. So I was at the house today and there was this purple wall in the house, and I was like, I just know she picked that wall color out. And I was like, of course she would pick this shade of purple. But it's just cool to feel her in those spaces.
That gets me emotional. Yeah. In terms of the place, how many like rooms do you guys have? What's the capacity like for that?
Yeah, so out at Passageways, we're a 6-bed facility, like location. Our other location, Dignity House, which has just completed its construction and we're getting ready to move in a couple weeks. That also will be 6 beds.
Okay.
So I think sometimes we get a lot of pushback that we need more beds, but I think that staying around 6 is really great because it actually allows us to be a little bit more one-on-one with you. Instead of it also feeling like a mental health hospital where they're just packed in there.
Are the beds constantly full?
Yes. Even when we're having to tell people we're full, like it's always like, please call us right away when you have an opening. We get referrals all day, every day.
So what's their alternative? Like if you don't have a bed, where do they go?
Other youth shelters.
Okay.
In the community. Sometimes maybe they just have to sit in the ER until something opens up. Emergency placements in foster care sometimes. It really just depends on the level of need, maybe some safety concerns and what they have going in their case.
What is your greatest need right now as an organization, would you say?
I would say funding and advocacy. It's been hard. I think all nonprofits are feeling that. I think we're really feeling that because it's limiting sometimes our abilities to serve in the community. So funding is a huge monetary giving. And then just people who are willing to call their local legislators and really push that people continue to fund Safe Harbor, the law, Safe Harbor for all, and then continue so that we can offer services to youth who are in great need.
That is something that obviously I see all the time on Instagram on my feed right now is, call
Yes.
calling legislation.
Yep.
What does that make a difference, first of all?
It does make a difference.
It does make a difference.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yep.
And what is it that we're saying? Like, give us the words if we're calling. What are we saying?
Yeah, I would just say, like, this is a subject that I've learned more about, and I see a great need in the state of Minnesota. And if you could be in support of making sure that agencies that are funded under the Homeless Youth Act and Safe Harbor can stay funded, like, please push and listen to your constituents who are asking for that. I think it's also helpful, like, if you do have a personal connection to anyone who's experienced that, as much as possible, not putting their full story on blast, but, being like, this has affected me and my family, or me and my friends, me and my community, making it practical. The first time I ever talked to a legislator was Homeless Day on the Hill in 2018.
Okay.
And they were pushing legislation for basically, like, homes for everybody, because they were finding that youth who were unhoused were having a hard time being able to participate in school, and just what it means to continue to fund housing so people can have a safe place to live.
Yeah.
And how that shows up in our academics for youth is huge. And then I was able to even be vulnerable with my own story of, like, housing insecurity was something my family faced. I grew up with a single parent.
Yeah.
And I think to see the legislator, like, look at me, who was a college graduate, who went to Minnetonka High School, that's not a narrative that they hear very often.
Yeah.
That's something that they were able to say, oh, that does affect everybody, not just particular areas that I don't represent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's powerful. Yeah. What events do you have coming up that people that's open to the public to attend?
Yeah, I would say the biggest thing is our gala coming in the spring.
Okay.
Yep. So
Do you have a date for that yet?
we do, but I don't remember it.
Okay.
That's it. I apologize. But
I'll put it
if
in
you
the
check
show
our
notes.
website, there should be information on that getting posted soon.
Okay.
Yep.
About how many people attend usually?
Big enough where it's moving venues this year. Potentially the Armory. I don't know if I'm supposed to say that out loud yet, though, so we might have to edit that out. But I would say that opens up the capacity maybe like over 1,000-ish.
Amazing.
In between there. Yeah.
Yeah.
It'll be my first gala ever going to this one, so I'm excited. Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to look into that.
Yeah.
I would love to go.
Yep.
Also, I'm going to throw this out there. If you want me to style you for it, I'll do that.
I absolutely love that. Yes.
I will do that as an exchange for your time today.
Absolutely. I would love that.
Reach out. We'll get you looking fabulous.
Perfect.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think this is, again, I just hope that if there's like one person listening who has been through something and feels less alone, or they're just listening and then they see some of these red flags in others, that they can step in and intervene. Or if someone's just looking for ways to engage in the community and find an organization to really align with.
Yeah.
That's my goal.
That'd be amazing.
Yeah.
We're here. We're doing the work. We love when more people want to learn and engage with the work too, because it creates better outcomes for our youth that we're working with.
Yeah. Is there anything else that you want to share or say about Blink or in this conversation?
I think, if anything, just driving like how youth led it really is. I think that's so important, because we have so many services for youth that youth never got a say in. And so just knowing when you maybe refer youth to the program or you give your money, like, youth have been involved from the top to the bottom. Like, our org chart is our board of directors, our CEO, and the youth advisory board sits at the same level as our CEO. Like, that's how important they are to the work that we're doing. I think that's really unique, and we're kind of one of a kind in that way.
Yeah. And it gives them a purpose.
Yes.
And a path forward.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. And just to have, in some of these cases, I'm sure they've never had adult, like, look at them at that level. Yeah. Like peer-to-peer kind of, like, I trust you. I believe in you. Yeah. I want to hear from you. That's really powerful too.
It is super powerful. And I think we hear a lot of you say, like, it's just been such a unique opportunity to have someone see beyond what I've just been put through. Yeah. Like, they see me and I see what I bring to the table, not just this horrific thing.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Wonderful. Thank you so much for coming and sharing all of this.
Yes, thank you for having me.
I'm excited to continue to get to know you and the organization and just get more involved. The last question that I ask everyone is, what is one common thread that you believe connects us all as humans?
Yeah, I would say we all have an inherent need to belong. And I think we have a responsibility to create spaces where people feel like they belong and to make sure that they're as healthy and healed as possible in those spaces. So I think belonging is what connects us all.
Yeah, I love that. Great answer. All right. Well, thank you again for your time. I'm going to post a lot of this in the show notes. So if you want more information on the link and how to get involved, it will be there. And tune back in next time for another conversation. Thank you.
Thank you.